What's up, friends and Devi faithful? It's your host, Eric, back with another rookie profile. As we start to get a little bit deeper into the RB ranks, there's still some studs here. There's still some really good players that we haven't gotten to yet. Just awesome value on running backs this year. You're going to get some absolute treasures in the second round and maybe even the beginning of the third round, kind of like we did on wide receivers last year. So this week we're doing, as I'm sure you can read, a guy that many said is the hardest eval in this class, and that is Devon Achane of Texas A&M. Basically, if you showed me this profile and instead of saying 195 pounds, it said 205 or 210 pounds, I'd have Achane as top 2 or 3 back in this class. The rest of the numbers are that good. Just really not a lot of holes in the data profile. So if you haven't caught any of these yet, I've been kind of looking at the data points I have here on these cards, which my friend at Lucy with AK underscore FF has been working with me on, and comparing them to averages of backs that have had a top 24 season, which is not even a high bar, right? There's not much of a difference between that average and the top 12 season, though. And there's more data points in the top 24. So that's kind of why I was doing that. Great. So 5'9", 195. Like we said, the 195 is the problem. My model starts to knock guys in score at 195. That's kind of, below 205, not great. Below 195, death sentence. So we're all really curious to see where Achane weighs in at. You think he's got to be just pounding cheeseburgers and chocolate shakes right now. I mean, it worked for Travis Etienne last year or 2 years ago. Etienne is not a 208-pound guy, but he bulked up, put a layer of fat on for the scales, and that's what Achane should be doing as well. Career production, 369 rushing attempts, 2,376 rush yards, 21 touchdowns. How does that compare? So it's a low amount of attempts for a guy that's destined to be a stud in the NFL. It's a slightly low amount of rushing yards, but commensurate with the attempts, both indicative of the fact that he's been a timeshare back mostly through his career up to now. But again, playing with an NFL running back and Isaiah Spiller. Spiller hasn't worked out the way we've hoped, but he was a great college back. 21 touchdowns, again, a little bit low, but right in line with his attempts and his rushing production, both about 2/3 of the number that my composite stud put up. The receiving production, which is perhaps what we care about more for Achane, given his size profile, 65 receptions, 554 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. Excuse me, those numbers are fine. That's right in line with our composite numbers. The 62 receptions, 633 yards, so he's a little bit light there. 5 touchdowns is actually a great number. The average is 4.5. So solid numbers there. Production market share numbers. 39% dominator is super solid. That is fine. That's a good dominator. My threshold is 33%. So 39 is great. 65% rush yards market share. That is a great number. My threshold's 48%. So super strong. 16% receptions market share. Again, I don't care about these numbers. They're not all part of my model, but they're interesting data points for us to look at because they describe the role he has played in his career. What use has he been put to? How has he been used by the coaching staffs that have had him? And is there any predictive capacity for that to the NFL? So 16% receptions market share is a good number. 12% is my threshold. And again, plenty of guys below 12% that excelled in the NFL as pass catching backs. That's really a thing that does not always travel from college to the NFL. There's just a lot of guys in systems that coaches don't throw to the backs, or quarterbacks that don't throw to the running backs. So how is his efficiency? 7.6 yards per touch. That's a great number. My threshold is 7.49. 6.5 is a threshold. So he just crushed it. 1.91 YPC over team. Threshold's 1.8. Devon is A-okay there. And interestingly, this was something that Spiller struggled at. And, I said then, and my Spiller takes obviously didn't work out, but I was apparently right about this one aspect, that Spiller's YPC over team was bad because Achane was a great back. I didn't realize he was probably a lot better than Spiller. I just thought he was, on par. This is where we are. So yards created, 3.3 yards created. It's a per touch career average. My threshold is 2.9. So again, Achane just crushing all the efficiency stuff. 0.57 rush yards over expected per attempt for his career. That's awesome. 0.35 is my threshold for an NFL stud. 1.97 adjusted yards per team play. 2.23. I can't remember if this is a best number in there for him or an average. I've been using the best for this figure. So he doesn't quite hit it. That just means that there's other, things going on in the offense as well as him. And again, I think I'm not quite sure why he doesn't hit it, to be honest, because just with his dominator and his receptions market share, I would have expected him to have had a higher yards per team play than this. Maybe A&M's offense was so bad this year in his one workhorse year that the yardage just doesn't match up on a per play basis. 0.33 EPA per play is almost exactly right spot on for my stud threshold of 0.30. How are his elusive numbers? Well, they're good. So 51 missed forced tackles is a little shy of the mark, but you got to remember that missed forced tackles is in some ways a volume stat. I'm not talking about, missed forced tackles for attempt. I just don't have that data. Although, it takes seconds to calculate it. I should probably just throw that in there in my spreadsheet, right? It's kind of a volume number, right? So his volume is never that incredibly high. Missed forced tackles never a crazy number. Plus, Achane and this style of runner that tend to run around people and not through them always trend lower in missed forced tackles. Not a big deal. 4.02 yards after contact per attempt is fine. My threshold is 4.17. Decent number. 1.84 yards per route run. That's a great number. And we care about that a lot with Achane. And again, yards per route run, it's not something that I want to hang my hat on. It's part of my analytical model. It actually deteriorates the predictive capacity in my model, but I do include it in there because it pulls up some guys that I like a lot that would otherwise be misses, like Ramondre Stevenson. That figure tells me that, he's been tasked with receiving work. He's been efficient at it. It's a good data point. 52% breakaway rate, well over my threshold, and in fact, a really good number. So where is Achane for me in terms of an analytical profile? I think he's great, man. The size is obviously a concern. It's, you're an outlier if you're successful in the NFL at that light of a weight, but we do have comps to point to that are reasonable comps that have excelled in the NFL. Those would be guys like Ray Rice, Jamal Charles, Chris Johnson. And as I think everyone's going to see, and no one's going to be surprised at the combine, Achane's going to run like a 4.3 something, like blazing for a running back. And then the Jamal Charles comps will start in full. The Chris Johnson comps will go crazy. That's the kind of player he is. So next time, I'm probably going to do a couple more data profiles tonight. We'll come back to Achane's film shortly, probably later this week, and we'll get to take a look at the other side of his profile. Again, please, if you like this type of content, like, subscribe. We need your support on the channel. And then, let me know what you think about this. Is there things you'd like me to talk about? Do you think I'm missing something? What do you think of Devon Achane? Would love to hear the discourse. Okay, guys, I'll be back in a little bit with another data profile.